Hello you all, I'm BlaqueWitchYaya. Thank you so much for tuning into this video and welcome to my very first Black Witch Wicked Wednesdays. I stutter, so hopefully I can say that smoothly throughout the course of October, where we will be dissecting Halloween classics, looking at some of the symbolism, the actual magic that was displayed, and a deeper meaning behind some of the scenes that took place. And today we are going to start with a movie that I am always using as an example, just because I feel that times films can be portrayed in a certain way where we're all just evil. And if you don't know about spirituality, a lot of people just take that and be like, see, that's the devil. But today we are actually going to go over the movie Hocus Pocus, which is one of the top Halloween classics, and discover what was the movie about, some deeper meaning, and some actual magic that was displayed. And since Hocus Pocus 2 is out on Disney Plus, I wanted to remind you guys of Hocus Pocus 1, so when you watch Hocus Pocus 2, you're kind of familiar of what happened in part 1, and you can see some of the odes that was dedicated to part 1. This would be the perfect time for a Disney Plus ad, but hopefully next year. Okay. And while we go over this movie, I will be making my crystal dry rub with a mixture of herbs that you can utilize to keep and cleanse your crystals. Of course, they're already nice and charged when you receive them. You can keep them charged under the sun or the full moon. But this is where you can keep your crystals charged in-house. You could put them in your jewelry box when you're not wearing them. If you have them on your altar, you could sprinkle some of the crystal dry rub at the bottom of your altar. Sit your crystals on top to constantly keep them activated. And you could purchase your crystal dry rub from BlaqueWitchYaya.com. So let's go back to 1693 in Salem, Massachusetts, where three sisters by the name of Winnie, Mary, and Sarah are the town's witches. And of course, we can see witches, Salem witch trials. That's another video for a different day, but we see kind of what's going on. And these sisters, known as the Sanderson sisters, are up to their usual, doing some magic. In this case, we see a young girl by the name of Emily, who is in the hot seat, literally about to get the wrath of the Sanderson sisters. So one thing that they did throughout the movie and their overall goal is sucking the life out of the youth so they can stay young, pretty, and live forever. We kind of seen this in the movie I talked about before, The Skeleton's Key. So if you guys haven't watched that, another classic, but they utilized the youth to rejuvenate themselves, to live longer, to add on years. And today's victim is Emily, and her older brother Zachary is on the hunt for her, not knowing where she is. We hear him say, Emily, Emily. But despite them doing a youth spell, later on we will find out that they are closer to death than they actually are with forever lasting life. So while Zachary is running through the woods looking for his sister, the Sanderson sisters have already started their magic. They're spitting into their potion, adding in different ingredients, the dead man's toe. If you guys watched the movie, you know why I said it like that. So they're spitting into their potion. Side note, when you do spells, anything that's really strong on yourself, you're going to need some type of DNA, whether it's your hair, your nails, your spit, your blood. That's why you sometimes see people poke people right before they're about to do like a protection spell on themselves or any other type of work, just to add in their DNA to make the spirits, the universe, whoever they're doing it to, know for sure this is for me right here, nobody else. You send whatever I'm doing, you protect me, you send this to me. So since we're talking about Hocus Pocus and all the evil that was taking place, let me tell you how you can protect yourself from evil. I have go away evil incense available on BlaqueWitchYaya.com that you can burn in your house or your office or wherever you feel that needs a quick cleanse. Once you're cleansing yourself for the day, you can throw in some Castaway Evil bath salts and protect yourself on a daily basis with the black obsidian necklace and bracelet. You can get all these protective items from BlaqueWitchYaya.com to me. So once everything is done, little Emily is sitting in the chair and we see her become translucent, so the transfer between life as they breathe her in can be done easier. So we see the Sanderson sisters come together and they begin to suck in, literally breathing her life into them, sucking the life out of her. Of course, Zachary tries to stop them, but he was of no success. And now when we see them a few seconds later, we see them all nice looking and vibrant. Winnie, not so much, but less wrinkles, more glow to their skin. and Emily is gone. Emily's life was sacrificed for the youth and the longevity of the Sanderson sisters. They ended up turning Zachary, her brother, into a cat, but not without his personality. He's still Zachary, but just in a cat form, and he was punished by living forever. But before they could rejoice in their new looks and the success of their spell work, the townspeople of Salem came barging to their door because they heard Emily was missing, so everybody came bucking, and then they placed a noose around each of their Sanderson sisters' neck and asked them one more time, "What have you done with Emily?" Then Winnie, being witty, said, "I don't know. A cat must have my tongue." So of course now the townspeople are going off because Winnie made that terrible joke. So before they could even knock them off of their feet for their hanging to begin, Winnie called for her spell book. Now for this book, you will hear her say book, but this spell book is known to be bound in the actual skin of the dead man, and we can see that there's an actual eye on the book that continuously moves. So it has the energy of a human that is no longer here, and it is told that that book was given to Winnie by the devil himself. He calls for her book, and they do a spell, a singing, that basically says even though they're about to die right now at this moment, that they will be able to live forever. When a virgin lights their flat flame candle, they will be able to come back and reclaim their time basically, and utilize the youth for them to have everlasting life and to continue to look young. And then in the movie, we are taken over to Jacob Bailey High School, where this story was being told by a teacher in front of her class because it's time for Halloween, and with this being Salem, they are very into the spirits, the witches, and everything Halloween. But of course, in every batch there is a skeptic, and in this batch the skeptic is Max, because he feels that Halloween was just developed by the candy companies for them to make some money, until one of his classmates by the name of Allison had to kind of correct them and basically mention the same thing I said in my Halloween video. For Halloween, Hallows Eve, you are able to communicate with the dead very easily. The veil between life and death are very thin, so a lot of people tend to get ancestor readings on Halloween, do something real cute with their ancestor altar, ask to hear from their ancestors, their loved ones, because basically just think about it, you have better signal on the phone talking to them on Halloween, just because the energy in the veil is thinner between life and death, which is why it is known that a lot of crazy things tend to happen on Halloween, just because the energy with the moon and the veil being thin, a lot of things tend to go down. So Allison had to kindly tell Max, you could get rid of your skepticism. This stuff has been proven. So now it's time for trick-or-treating. Max is forced to take his little sister trick-or-treating. So they're going around town. He's not really enjoying it. Like I said, he is a skeptic, but they ended up going to a very, very nice house. The little sister really didn't want to go because she's like, listen, you don't go to the rich houses for trick-or-treating. All they're going to do is just make you drink some apple cider, which was true. They were offered apple cider, but it was the house of Allison, and we know that Max has a crush on Allison. So she's talking to the younger sister, talking about how they learned about the Sanderson sisters, and just so happened Allison's mom ran the museum for the Sanderson sisters, because the story I just told you took place over 300 years ago. So now we're in present time, where the Sanderson sisters are just this mythological group of witches who cause the town havoc. So Max is a skeptic, but of course trying to impress Allison, he agrees to go to the museum, and the museum just so happens to be their cabin that was in the woods, and you can kind of see in a very eerie way it's a lot of the same things in certain places that was there from before. So they go on a tour of the museum, they see the spell book bind down, and they see the candle that they mentioned in the spell from before, that if it is lit by a virgin, that they will be able to be brought back from the dead. And like I said, this is Halloween, so the veil between life and death is very thin. Max, being a show off, trying to impress Allison, he lights the candle. So the candle was lit by a virgin, therefore all havoc begins to break loose. All of the candles blow out, and while they're in the museum, someone is watching them from the window. The cat. Because in that story, they say that a cat goes to the Sanderson sisters' house on every Halloween to guard it, to prevent anyone that is curious or just thinks it's a joke from lighting that candle, because the cat knows that that candle is lit, they will be back. And of course, the cat is Zachary from before, that they turned into a cat. So with Max now being inside the museum, their old cabin, trying to impress Allison, he decides to light the candle. At first, when he tried to light it, the cat attacked him, trying to stop him, but he's being cocky, trying to be cute, and he lights the candle. Big mistake. As soon as he lights the candle, the flame turns black. All of the other flames blow out. Lights and chandeliers begin to shake. The floors begin to shake. They're freaking out. They're getting scared. They don't know what's going on. And it seems like someone is just erupting in the room. Then all of a sudden it stops. A gust of wind begins to blow very hard. Then the door swings open. It's the Sanderson sisters, back from the dead. So the Sanderson sisters storm in. Of course, they're happy to be back from the dead. The spell is complete. Sarah sees her lucky rat tail. Winnie's happy to see her book. And Mary is going around looking at everything. And she says, "I smell children." And that's her signature line in the film. You know, children are around if that nose of Mary's get the kicking. So right now, with the Sanderson sisters being in the building, of course, it's a cat and mouse chase. They're going back and forth, trying to trick them, trying to get out of there because they're seeing this mythical creature from a folklore that they constantly hear about. They're seeing that they're actually real. Max's suspicions has gone out the window because now he has to figure out how can he get around them. He's running all over the place. The little sister trying to lie to them to play tricks to get them out of there. Then Max, I guess he takes on the fact that witches are afraid of water. So he takes a flame to the, I forgot the name of this tool. It's those little things in the air in your house when the fire, if there's a fire, like it'll sprinkle out water. A hydrant thing. You know what I'm talking about? I forgot the name of it. But you know those sprinklers. He sets a flame to the sprinklers and he says, "Oh, this is the burning rain of death." So they're trying to stay away from the water because they're like, "Oh my gosh, death, we just got here. We're not trying to leave." And then the cat, Zachary, told Max to grab the book. Yes, in this movie, the cat talks. So they grabbed the book and they were able to escape. And the Sanderson sisters realized this is just water. We can complete our mission. So before we continue, let's talk about this myth with children and witches. There's a saying that witches do not like children. Keep your children away from witches. They'll kill them. When in actuality, 99.9% of the time, witches are the nicest to children because anyone who is deep into spirituality or any type of magic that you're doing, you know to leave innocent souls alone. And children are considered innocent souls. So if you were to ever do any type of craft or evil towards a child, your karma is going to Mike Tyson you, punch you in the face because you leave innocent souls alone because they haven't done anything on earth to have any type of sense of evil or grounding. So you leave kids alone. So getting back to the story, Max, Allison, and his little sister Danny are running, chasing behind the cat because the cat is leading them somewhere they don't know until they run upon a grave. And they're like, "Wait, why are we going to a grave site? We really it's too much going on." And then Zachary, the cat, lets them know that witches cannot lay foot on hollow ground. So they get to the gravesite and Zachary actually takes them to Billy's tombstone, which is Winnie's ex-husband. If you watch part 2, they got some more tea on that. So they're running through the grave and then Zachary the cat stops them at William's gravesite, Billy, and then he tells them the story that this is Winnie's ex-husband. She's like the leader of the Sanderson sisters. You know, the one with the red hair. This is her ex-husband. She poisoned him because she had caught him messing around with her sister Sarah and basically sealed his mouth shut so he could never tell another secret. A shut up spell, basically, where you sew up someone's mouth. You could sew up a line, sew up a cow tongue, basically to get someone to shut up. So that's an actual spell. So that's just like some Real Housewives tea. But continuing with the story, one thing I found hilarious that's in Hocus Pocus 1 and Hocus Pocus 2 that you'll see, they're very behind on the times anytime they come back. So with the fire alarm being set off, of course the firefighters come. The witches, the Sanderson sisters, hide from them because they feel like they're witch hunters. They're like, "Look at the way they're dressed. They're coming after us." When in actuality they're firefighters. And in part 2, they're just the new technology and them trying to figure out what's going on. It's just like a culture shock to them. But going back to the gravesite, so now they think, okay, so they're chasing after this book. Maybe this book is like the source of their power. Maybe we could try to get rid of the book. Max, again, with his little lighter, trying to light a flame to the book. But Zachary's like, "Baby, this is a spell book. It's protected by fire." The Sanderson sisters are flying over the gravesite, trying to get the book from them, chasing them down because they can't place a foot on the gravesite. They're flying around with their brooms, trying to get their book back because they know that book has the spells that they need to complete their mission that they're there for on Halloween because they have to get it done before sunrise. So now the hunt continues beyond the gravesite. They're chasing them all around town. They hop on a bus for the first time. Now they're in the middle of the suburbs where they see trick-or-treating going on. And Mary, of course, she smells children, but she can't see them because everyone has on masks and costumes so they don't look like the children from 1693. And they're like, why is everyone dressed like this on our day? Did they just turn it into a joke? Like, what's going on? And then they see a man dressed as the devil, and like I said, the devil is considered their master because he is the one that gave them the spell book, at least in this story. So they're like, oh my gosh, there's our master, he can help us. Come to find out, they realize, oh, he's just dressed up like the devil. That's not our real master. So we're fast forwarding through a lot of parts just because it's a full-on chase going down. While the kids are out trick-or-treating, a lot of the parents are at an adult Halloween party. They go to the Halloween party. Of course, no one realizes that it's the actual Sanderson sisters because it's Halloween. So everyone is dressed up. Max and Danny try to explain to their parents, like, listen, the Sanderson sisters are back. I lit the flame and now we don't know what to do. They're chasing down this book, but we don't want to give them the book because they're going to try to take over all the children and suck the life of all the youth in Salem. Like, what's going on? But their parents are like, okay, you must have had too much candy. And this is where that iconic scene of I put a spell on you performance comes from at this Halloween party, where they are actually putting a spell on the parents for them to continue dancing until they die. And the reason that they did that is because as long as they're dancing, they're not checking for their kids. They don't know what's going on. So those Sanderson sisters can have full access to their children. So now the parents are stuck dancing. Max, Danny, and Allison are still running around town trying to hide and kill the witches. They thought they had them at first because they ended up going to their high school and they knew there was like a fireplace, a fire pit in there. They put the witches into the fire pit. They set them on fire. They thought they were dead, but of course they're not dead because they have until sunrise. So according to their spell, they can have all life and whatever they want until sunrise come. And that's when Allison and Danny and Max come up with the idea, maybe we can fake a sunrise in order to confuse them or distract them a little bit longer. So the witches pop back up. They were not burned. They were not down for long. Max and Allison and Danny now realize, okay, we got to continue down this search. They look through the spell book and they see that salt can protect them. So Allison tries the salt. Of course, it didn't really work for long because it'll just keep her protected. But I think at this point, the Sanderson sisters are like, look, we're on a mission. We ain't got that much time left. Sarah goes up into the sky with her broom, singing a beautiful song that basically brings in and puts a spell on all the kids to follow her voice so they could begin their overall purpose, which is to suck the life out of all of the youth in Salem to keep them living. So we're back to the gravesite now. Even though Sarah is working on the children, they still have to get that spell book in order to complete the spell. They know that they cannot set foot on the grave, but one person who can is Winnie's ex-husband, who they raised from the dead to start chasing after them to get the book. But come to find out, he wasn't really much of help anyway, because once he was able to cut his mouth open, he basically read Winnie down saying, I ain't really like you no way, you lied on me, and did this and that. We'll figure out what the lie was in Hocus Pocus 2. So he starts helping out Allison, Danny, and Max because he didn't really like the Sanderson sisters like that no way either. So with the whole back and forth for trying to protect themselves, Winnie was actually able to scoop up Max's little sister Danny onto the broom. They were able to knock the potion out of Winnie's hands that she was trying to pour into Danny's mouth that she used on the younger lady before, Emily, to basically make her soul in that transit phase where she's able to suck the life in her. Max was able to knock that out of her hand. He drunk it himself and he's like, look, now you have no choice but to utilize me, basically sacrificing his life for his little sister. And I feel like the main purpose behind that was he see how Zach wasn't able to rescue his sister, so he took it as, okay, this is my chance to actually rescue and save my sister. So Winnie, of course, is like, oh well, I guess I gotta get you. But little do they know, sunrise is peeking through. So Winnie begins trying to suck the life out of Max before the sun comes up so she can preserve her life, but she doesn't make it in time. She turns into a statue. Once the sun is fully up, she disappears. So that, of course, is just a brief overview of the movie Hocus Pocus. And I feel that for a lot of us, this was our first introduction into like the witchery and the magic of the world. And before we knew much about it, we're like, oh my gosh, this is what witches do. You got to stay away from witches. But once you watch it as an adult, you are able to really pick up on little symbolism that happened within the film. At least for me, of course, there's not much of it because, again, it is a kid's film. But once you're into the spiritual world, you're like, wow, they're doing youth spells, reversal spells, protecting themselves with salt. They know that the veil is thinner between life and death on Halloween. It makes you wonder, who are these writers that are writing these Disney stories that really know what they're talking about and able to deliver it in a nice digestible way for people to take it as entertainment? But once you watch it when you're older, you're like, okay, I see what y'all was doing. So let's go over a few things that I didn't mention before. The whole reason why the Sanderson sisters were able to come back to life was simply due to candle magic. That was an ode to candle magic. And with the virgin having to light the candle, it is a pure soul. That's why when you're like in relationships and you get out of relationships or any type of intercourse, you want to cleanse yourself afterwards, because that energy, whether it was good, bad, in between, has now entered inside of you and kind of stained it a little bit, whether it's a good stain or a bad stain. I'm not saying a stain as if it's dirty, but that is a part of your energy now. So you want to make sure that you constantly cleanse yourself. If you know you have your little one night stands, you don't really know the person like that, just, you know, do a little cleanse. But the reason that a virgin was able to light the candle, because it represents innocence, no ill intention, just a fresh body. We know the protection with the salt and our brick dust, not being able to step on hollow ground. They say that evil should never enter into grave sites because they're basically taunting death and making themselves accessible for death, because it's like, okay, you're already here, so now we're going to take over that energy. So that's just a brief breakdown of some of the things that happened with the spell book. We know words are power, but have you guys ever wonder what made Winnie that way? When did she find out that she was a witch? When did she actually get that spell book? How did it get to the house and the cabin? Like, what actually led up to that moment? Because at the end of the movie, we think that they're gone forever, but we see the eye awaken in the spell book, and that shows us that they can come back. And that's exactly what happened in Hocus Pocus 2. Without telling you the whole ending or what happened, because it is a relatively new movie and I want you guys to have a chance to watch it. Again, this would be perfect for a Disney Plus ad, but it shows how the childhood of the Sanderson sisters led up to them becoming witches, receiving the spell book from a witch in the cabin. Her saying that many people in Salem stayed away from the woods is because that is where the witches reside to recharge their magic. Her receiving the spell book, finding out that she's a witch, what happened between her and her ex-husband, how important it is for a witch to have her coven, and all of the stuff in between, and the new generation of witches that was awakened, and the witches' attempt to do the same thing that they did before with taking advantage of the youth, and learning a big lesson in the end, how greed can lead to them being alone. And that's all I'm going to say about Hocus Pocus 2. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. I hope you love my quick rundown of Hocus Pocus 1, a classic, and I feel that many of us were introduced to magic through Hocus Pocus. Let me know down below what other movie I should go over for our Black Witch Wicked Wednesdays that we can dissect, that has deeper symbolism and some magic, and some serious magic that was taking place right before our eyes. But like I always say, as above so below, as within so without, as the universe so the soul. Until next time, you guys, Ashe, AJ.